Hi, welcome back. This is Xin Tong. I'm a licensed psychologist, and today I'd like to teach a really effective tool for working with pain, for reliably reducing the amount of pain that you may be experiencing. I first learned this technique from Dr. Peter Levine, who developed somatic experiencing therapy, and I will include a reference below in the description of the video in case you want to learn a little bit more. I've adapted it into a brief mindfulness exercise, and most people I work with seem to find it really effective. The exercise is called Pendulation, and Dr. Levine named it after the pendulum swinging back and forth. If you can think of a grandfather clock moving, the pendulum moving back and forth from one side to the other, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to be moving from an area of pain to an area that feels pretty well, and shifting our attention between the two. And the reason why I wanted to focus on pain today especially is because during these really difficult times, when things feel really stressful, and we're all having to cope with a lot of changes and uncertainty, our pain that we feel can really intensify or increase in frequency. And even if you're somebody who doesn't normally get headaches or other kinds of aches, you might start experiencing what we call like tension headaches and stomach aches. So this is a great exercise for all of those things. There are a few things that will help us set up the exercise. One is to get as comfortable as you can. So that means you could be sitting in your favorite chair, or lying on the ground, or lying in bed, whatever that means to you, so that you won't have to move for a few minutes. The other thing I'd like you to do is identify an area you'd like to work with. So you may have multiple places in the body that are hurting right now, but what I'd like you to do is just pick one of them. Probably one that's not the worst and not the least, but somewhere in the middle is a good place to start. The other thing I'd like you to do is identify another area of the body that feels pretty good. And by that I mean a pain-free area. Maybe it's of the same general size, but it doesn't have to be as the first area. And for some of you, you may need to go off the regular path. So maybe it's the inside of an elbow or the back of a leg, but some part of the body that feels okay and pain-free. Great, so now we're ready to begin. You can close your eyes, which is something I like to do myself, or you can find somewhere to rest your gaze quietly so that your eyes aren't wandering around and causing distraction. Great, and then I like to begin by taking a few slow breaths in and out through the nose if you can. Not trying to change them, we're simply enjoying and observing them. That nice inhale and exhale, the natural rhythms of the breath, and allow it to lead the mind to the present moment. Good. And we'll now shift our attention to the part of the body that we identified that has pain that we want to work with. And as if I gave you an imaginary piece of chalk, what I'd like you to do in your mind's eye is draw the perimeter of this area. So it doesn't have to be a perfect circle or perfect anything. Draw whatever shape it is, and this will help us identify the area that we're working with. It'll improve our attention on it and help us know where the pain stops. All right, so now that you've got that, the other thing I'd like you to do is imagine if this place had a color. What color would it be? And the first thing that comes to mind is usually the best. Don't think about it too hard. So it might be really dark or light. You can think of different shades and tints. It might be a combination of colors. Whatever you think of is just right. And the next thing we're going to do is use words to describe as best as we can, as specifically as we can, how this area feels. So you might use words like hot or icy cold or tight, sharp, stabbing, dull and achy, anything like that to describe the sensation. And this is a really important part because it involves our entire brain. And that helps because when we're in pain, the thinking parts of our brain tend to shut off and we are more in panic mode. And when we can use language to describe what's going on, it helps our brain feel like it has a bit of control. And it can actually help decrease the sensation. So it's a paradox. Because normally we want to move away from pain. That's very intuitive. And here we're being curious about it, open to observing the sensations. So once you have 2 or 3 words, now we're going to shift to the area that you identified that feels pretty good. And we're going to do the same thing. Use that imaginary piece of chalk to circumscribe the area. And that helps us identify it and make it more real in our minds. And then we're going to, again, assign it a color or let it assign itself a color, if you could think of it that way. And the last thing we'll do with this area, just like before, is to use words to describe it. So you might, for example, try on some words like light, loose, at ease, calm, warm, cool. And take a few moments to reflect on that. So now what I'd like you to do is to move back. We're going to pendulate, swing the pendulum back to the first side, the first area that we identified. And again, go through the same steps. Notice the area, notice the color, describe it with words. It can be the same or different as before. Just do your best to bring your curiosity to this area. Good. And then we're going to shift back, swing back to the area that is pain-free. Same thing. Notice the area, notice the color, describe it with words. And now, once again, we're going to shift back to the first area, the part that felt in pain. Notice any changes. Describe it with words. And then at your own pace, I want you to shift and swing back and forth between the 2 areas a couple more times. Take time to breathe as you do this. Excellent. You're doing great. Good job. So I'm going to bring this exercise to a close, but you are welcome to continue practicing this as you like. Often when I work with clients in my office and this exercise, in teaching this exercise, it often only takes a few minutes for them to notice a decrease. It doesn't necessarily have to work for everybody, but it also doesn't need to take a really long time for you to notice any changes. So thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. And please do take extra good care of yourself. Bye.